All right. You know what it is. You know who it is.
Yes,
We
sir.
back. Welcome back to the BG Perform podcast with my co-host, Coach Jerry Hayes,
I
for the
saw.
last episode of 2024. This one's going to be a banger. This year has been amazing. We've gotten back into the flow of podcasting. We've gotten back into the flow of getting these episodes out, which was something I talked about with Jerry in the beginning of this year, and I
hmm
wanted to do with him. And yeah, I'm happy with how it's turned out. I think this is episode 18, 17 or 18. So,
Many more to come in the future with
yeah.
consistency. We love it.
And me and Jerry obviously had a lot of things going on this year, a lot of change, a lot of growth, and there was things. I had a goal that I initially wanted to hit with the podcast, but at this point I'm just happy we got as many as we did out and we were able to get it started again and you know get ourselves like moving in the direction of the podcast. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm happy we got as much as we did. And today we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to backtrack just a little bit and talk a little bit more about how to avoid National Quitters Day, which we just looked up is the second Friday of January. So this year it'll be January 10th, technically. And then after that, we're going to be talking about how this year went, some wins, some losses, just change. We're just going to kind of talk a little bit about, you know, things that we took away from this year that we think can help you guys or anybody that listens to this and just kind of dive in from there. So I'm going to set this timer. It's the final AM tap of 2024. If you don't remember it to this point, go back and listen. No, I'm joking. AM tap,
Figure it out, please.
AM tap, as much talking as possible inside of the time that we set. And today is going to be a simple 30 minutes. Jerry, are you ready?
I am ready.
Let's see how this goes. Three, two, one, and
Boom.
boom.
Oh, actually, I like the look of this timer better.
I actually do too. It's much more
This,
professional.
what the hell were we doing?
It's backwards on. Oh, turn off video mirroring to view timer in a direction.
Oh, it's normal for me. It says 29, 46, 45,
All
44.
right.
Yeah, so we're good.
Nice.
We
Sorry.
wasted 15 seconds, 20 seconds now.
It's all right. We're gonna go over. So,
As always, yeah.
National Quitters Day. We talked about this a little bit last week in our how to avoid fall off and how to get back on track if you did fall off. And I think this is a huge thing for people. And we're not going to spend too much time on this today because we did talk about this a lot in the last episode. But what I want to kind of do here today is give you guys a couple main takeaways for the upcoming months here. Let's say the next month, because I think the next month or so is when a lot of this training, a lot of these things come up and really start to they really start to peek their head out and people start to struggle and people start to lose themselves inside the holidays, right? So me and Jerry were just talking a little bit. Oh, we were talking about this last week as well, but just a little bit before this and talking about some of the main ways that we see people can help themselves during this time. And I think that it's super easy to just try to do it yourself, right? And I think a lot of the times during this period of new year into resolution into figuring out goals and keeping that stuff, a lot of people are so general with their goals and they don't tell anybody because it's super easy to quit, right? When you tell people or you have specific goals and you have markers of like, all right, if I don't do this, I fail, then it's super hard to quit because you're like, okay, well, like now people know, or, I put some of this out online, or I have a specific metric that someone is tracking me on. And basically what we want to do is just give you some ideas and some takeaways that you can do to follow right after this, right? And first one we want to talk about is if you don't train, right? If right now you're in a position where you haven't trained in a long time and you haven't stepped foot inside a gym for a long time, the last thing we want to see you do, the last thing we want to see you do is go balls to the wall 7 days training, right? You can move for 7 days. And I want you to take away from, and Jerry, you can hop in if you have anything, but like I want you to separate training and movement, right? Training, I want you to think of like a dedicated, specific session that has a beginning and an end. There's things you're following, sets, reps, tempos, that type of thing, right? Movement, I want you to think of I'm going for a walk. I'm going to throw a football. I'm going to go shoot a basketball. I'm going to ride a bike, right? Like movement's more of like just go move your body, break a sweat. Training's like I have a specific dedicated purpose to the movement that I'm accomplishing today, right? So, and I wanted to define that because training 7 days in a row, coming off of not training at all, is a recipe for disaster, right? And I think that if you haven't trained in a long time, if you haven't stepped foot in the gym in a long time, set realistic expectations for yourself because you don't need to be in the gym 7 days, if we're being honest, right? You don't need to be training 7 days in a week. If you train 3 solid days during the week and give yourself 4 days to recover, whether that be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whether that be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whether that be Monday, Thursday, Saturday, like whatever it is, right? Give yourself leeway, give yourself opportunity to get into the gym, have a break after, recover, and work from there, right?
Mhm.
And I think that if this builds up too, right? If you're training or if you're not training right now and you've had problems in the past training consistently, 7 days a week is not the answer, especially right out of the gate. 3 days a week, maybe 4 days a week, even 2 days a week, like somewhere between the 2 to 4 day a week training is ideal for you. And finding a gym that actually allows you to do that consistently, right? Like don't join a gym that's 45 minutes away from you, right? And this is where something where even in the past I've made this mistake where I'm like, oh, I need to find a nice gym. I want to work out. But there's a Planet Fitness right there, and it's going to help you stay consistent. Yeah, Planet Fitness might not be like the best gym, and it's kind of got some things that, I guess normal fitness goers might find like stupid or, annoying. But anyways, it has everything you need. It's cheap, it's close, it's accessible. Go. That's the place. I think all decisions you make right now in this time of transition into fitness need to be so basic and accessible, and accessibility and ease needs to be the main decision factor, right? Once you get the habits, once you get everything in order on that end, then you can look at like, oh, this place has really nice equipment. This place has a sauna. Yeah, it's a 15-minute drive further, but it's got X, Y, and Z, all that and all that, right?
That part is huge. That's so I was at a gym and I was training there. The only windows they have are in the front of the facility. And I like seeing sunlight or at least outside when I'm working out. The gym that I go to, or the gym that I went to was 6 minutes away. The one that I go to now is like a 10, 15-minute drive, depending on traffic. And there are windows and sunlight everywhere. And they even have an outdoor area to work because it's California. It doesn't really get to the point where you can't work out outside, which is
Yeah.
awesome. But that's like I found out that they had that area, and immediately that was like I was, yep, this is my gym. And it's the days that you have off too. Like Brandon was saying, the extra movement, that's going to change depending on your fitness level through the year too. So we could talk about that, obviously, like moving into
Yeah,
it.
well, I just want to finish off this topic.
Yeah, yeah.
A good point you're making. Like those types of things can come after, right?
Hmm.
Like having sunlight, having windows, having an easy commute. Like an easy commute needs to be first, right? Making sure it's accessible and getting to the gym, because rain, snow, whatever, like you should be able to get to the gym consistently without having anything get in the way. What happens is when the gym's far away or there's class times or there's scheduling and you can't make it or you have to cancel, like this is one of those things where it's always nice to have like a Planet Fitness type of membership or a gym like that, because most of them are 24/7. Most of them you can go to whenever you need to. Most of them you don't have to schedule anything. There's no coaches, there's no classes, there's nothing like that. And that's something where in a busy real person schedule, like the average person schedule, that's huge, right? Because
Hmm.
even the gyms that some of the gyms I've gone to in some of these places, they close at like 6 or they don't open until 7. And it's like, all right, well, like, that's not like I need something that opens earlier. I need something that has like availability and not running classes and whatnot. So, I think that some of these places, right, when you're looking to make a decision, the biggest thing right away to not quit early is ease of access, right? Let it be something that's so easy that it's almost embarrassing for you not to have gone, right? From there, then you start to look at the days. 3 days a week, like I said, 2 to 3 days a week from there is a great start. And if you can do that for the first month and build up momentum, then we can look to add in a day. Then we can look to change the training program a little bit. Then we can look to change the gym a little bit. Because at that point, you're going to be in a nice flow where everything is like, I want to work out. I need to work out. Like it feels good. And you're going to feel all the benefits from that. Then you can start to look at the amenities and the extras that come with that, right? Like Jerry said, this gym has um sun, this gym has more windows, this gym has better equipment, nicer plates, saunas, and outdoor working area. That way we can actually start to get ourselves in the flow of actually enjoying it, because once you have those little pieces where it's like the habits there, and then you have the things that you enjoy like an outdoor area or a sauna, then it's like, okay, cool, now I can go here because I know this is going to be a place that I enjoy and there's a lot of things that I get benefit from. And I think that early on, you can choose those things as well, right? All I'm saying is like, don't choose the amenities over something that's not easy or accessible, right? If you're picking a gym that's got all this shit, but then you can't get there because it's too far or it doesn't work for your schedule, you know, that's not where we need to be, because that's right when we fall into this quitter's day thing, right? Because it's like, oh, I can't go. It's too far. The schedule doesn't work. This coach isn't there, blah, 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 like all these excuses. And then you end up stop going, right? So I think first needs to be accessibility always, ease of access, accessibility, cheap, whatever it is that's going to get you through the door. Then from there, once you have a really consistent place that you can go, let's try to get there 2 to 3 days a week. And then once we can get there 2 to 3 days a week, then we can start to look at another facility or something more of like the amenities and things that make the gym even more fun or enjoyable to be at. Does that make sense? Is there anything to add there?
No, that's pretty much it. It's just, I mean, make sure, obviously, if you find a gym that's close, it doesn't mean like that has to be your gym. Like, don't even look further, because the 6 to 10 minute difference, which is what I was saying before, I'm all right with driving 10 to 15 minutes because it's fine for me in my location. And that club allows multiple access points with the membership that I have. So there's one close to my work. If I'm not working out at work that day, I can go and I'll work out at that gym, or I can be at home on a day off, go to the gym closer to my home. So if there's one that's like, oh, this one's 10 and this one's 15, I have to choose the 10. You can do 15 if it's doable for you. As long as you can stay consistent and you know that that's a driving distance you're willing to cover, then that's fine.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it's simple as that. And for me, I've had countless times where I didn't have the gym that I liked or gyms that were close or whatever, and I've just had to make it work. But that's just due to the nature of my travel. And I think that for a lot of this stuff, it's just once you have the habit, it's super easy, right? Because you're going to be going and finding it. You're going to do what you need to do to make sure you get your training in and make sure you get your movement in.
Mhm.
So I think that's number one, right? What was number two that we decided?
Number two, we were talking about so being consistent. The other one we were talking about like how, or well, the first one was how many days you should train. The
Yeah,
second one was like finding that location too, and then the other one would be like finding a training buddy.
yeah.
So for
So
for
so this
that,
is a
that's
big one
important.
that Jerry brought up.
Yeah.
And I think this is a huge piece. It's finding a partner or a training buddy, or what we would also call a professional training buddy, right? And the difference between those, right? Like once you have the place and the schedule, everything should be fine, right? But one of the best ways that you can keep yourself going is finding a real training buddy or training partner that can keep you accountable and that's going to show up, right? I think
Hmm.
you have to be just as careful picking your training partner as you do like your husband or wife, because is that person going to show up? Are they going to back out? Are they going to quit at 6 a.m.? Like, are they not going to show up? Like, if you can find someone who's really about it and be there, it can make training like so much more fun, right? And
Hmm.
so much more enjoyable, and really get you more because there's someone who's there and accountable and counting on you to be there, right? And I've said this in the past, like I've had clients in the past who necessarily, you know, they don't even care so much about like the personal training side of things. What they want is accountability. They want someone to be there and know that if they don't show up, they're letting someone down. They're, paying money to be somewhere and they need to do it, right? And obviously not everybody has that luxury or the money to do that. So find a friend who trains, make a friend at the gym who's there, Go find someone in the morning and be like, hey, listen, I see you're here regularly. Maybe we could work out together if you're interested, whatever, right? And I think that if you can find that training buddy, that person that can be there for you and kind of guide, well, not guide you so much, but just keep you accountable and say, what time are we going to the gym? What time are you waking up? Do you want me to pick you up? Are we going to meet there? What flavor bang or not bang? What flavor
Bang, right?
bang? No, what flavor Celsius do you want? What flavor what do you drink? Ghost?
Ghost is unreal. Ghost is
All right, what are we
unbelievable.
talking about? How many white monsters do you want? That's the real question.
Yeah, yeah, white monsters. Those are oh, dude, honestly, I can't these drinks are so I wouldn't say they're dangerous naturally, but I have such a strong sweet tooth that they are dangerous to me.
They're
I
so
will
good.
just keep buying it and buying it and buying it. And that's why
They're-
I don't buy them. That's easy as that.
But anyways, find a training partner that's going to allow you to get the most out of your training and show up on a daily basis and keep you accountable because it's so much harder to quit knowing that someone's there, right? When those
Hmm.
hard days come around and it's very hard to get out of bed. It's so easy to sit in bed when no one knows and no one's
Yeah.
there watching you or knows you're about to not show up to the gym, right? When you have someone who's like, "Hey, you coming? What time you coming? What time you leaving?" Or no matter what, it's like if I don't show up, that person's there by themselves type thing, right?
Yep.
And I think that's super important, especially like for me, it's not so much because I enjoy working out on my own, but I enjoy when like I get workouts with Jerry or I get workouts like now when I'm home, I get to train with my friend Nick. I get to train with, friends that when I go to their gyms and whatnot. It makes the workouts more exciting. It makes me have a little bit more energy, a little bit more pep in my step, and I feel it, right?
Hmm.
And I think that if you can find someone who's reliable, that's great. If you can't, right? If you don't have that or you struggle with that, there's always the option of obviously reaching out and asking for help or joining some type of group or what we would call like a professional training buddy, which is obviously like a trainer, someone
Hmm.
who you can pay to be there or pay to help you or pay to guide you, like those types of things, or even a coach, right? Like even someone like us, where if you're working out online and you really just don't have anybody that you can trust or that you want to train with, because that's a real thing too. Like you don't want to just ask somebody just to have a partner because it really, if you pick the wrong person, you know, one, it's like eventually like a breakup because you got to be like, I don't want to train with you anymore, right? And you have to kind of let them down slowly. And also, it can be a pain in the ass if you have someone that you're training with and they're just not on the same page as you, or they're lagging behind, and then you end up having to, kind of like babysit them or what whatever it might be. I still think that if you can hire a professional, someone who's going to be there, someone who you're not going to have to second guess if they're going to show up, that's the type of person you want to be around. And sometimes you have to pay for it.
Hmm.
But to me, it's worth it. It's worth it if you can have someone like for example with me, right? I'm someone who I have my schedule and I stick with it, and I'm never not going to be there. And if I'm not there, something's either seriously wrong or the few times that I forgot to set an alarm. And in those times that I may have forgot to set an alarm, right? Those are few and far between. But with someone like me, if you tell me you're going to be there at 6 a.m., I'm going to be there at 6 a.m., right? If you tell me you're going to be there at 7, I'll be there at 7. Whatever the time is, having that type of person who's there waiting for you and able to just get you excited to work out, have a good conversation in the morning or not, whatever you enjoy, someone who's just there to look at you and whatever. I've had some clients who come in and they're super excited to be there in the morning. And I have some people who are just like, just tell me what to do. Leave me
Hmm.
alone. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, I
Both
always,
are great because they get stuff done. Like they're both awesome clients too.
I always manage to get it out of people and get them more excited. I don't know. I just feel like when I have that type of conversation, I'm able to like pull conversation out of people for the most part.
Hmm.
And I think that's a good thing is like when you have someone like, and even, like, I think it's just something that me and Jerry have in common. Like for the most part, you could put us in a room and we're going to be friends with most of those people like relatively shortly. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that as trainers, that's such a great skill to have. But if you can find a trainer like that, it makes working out so much easier and so much more enjoyable. And I think that, having a professional training buddy, having a regular training buddy, like whatever it might be, it gives you an opportunity to really just focus on the training and have real accountability of if I don't show up, I'm letting somebody down. Right. And in
Hmm.
my eyes, there's nothing worse than letting somebody down in most things. Right. And then obviously the last thing that, is tend to be hit or miss with some people is like an online group, where you join a group of people who you can keep track with, who maybe might be following like the same workout plan, but in different places. Even if it's like a Zoom call or a FaceTime or something like that, like maybe you have a friend who you work out with regularly, but they moved or they're away, and this type of thing where you can hop on a Zoom call when they're at the gym or when you're at the gym, and you guys can work out at the same time on the phone, right? Obviously,
Mhm.
that would probably be, not the best version of it, but it would be something that still might help and get you into the gym and keep the accountability there. And yeah, I mean, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would say the biggest part of that is we've obviously said like find somebody who can hold you accountable, you can hold them accountable, but as you're looking for somebody to hold you accountable, it's really important, almost more important to hold yourself accountable because that's where you find that discipline. So let's say Brandon's my lifting buddy, and I'm like, "Hey man, I'm at the gym, you coming?" And he's like, "Oh, sorry, I just woke up, like I'm just not feeling it today." And
Yeah.
it's like, "All right, well, or you didn't even make it to the gym. You texted and be like, "Hey, I'll be there at 7, see you soon." And your buddy says, "Hey, I'm not going to make it." Still show up and get that workout done. Don't just be like, "Well, I don't want to do this workout without them because then they won't be able to do this workout. So I guess we'll push it to tomorrow because
Yeah.
tomorrow can become next week very quickly."
Yeah.
So if my lifting buddy says, "I'm sorry, I can't make it," I'm going to say, "That's all right. I'll catch you tomorrow for our next training session together." I would still go in. If we had a leg day plan today, I'm doing legs today because
Yeah.
I'm not going to set myself back because my training buddy is kind of lagging behind, but that'll also help to keep them accountable. So if you're trying to be too nice with it, then your accountability starts to fall back and then you become very complacent, kind of too relaxed about your training and not too serious about it.
Yeah, and it can, like you said, it can get like we talked about this in the last couple of weeks because I think it's so real. Like one day turns into a week, turns into a month, turns into 12 months, right? And I think for the people listening to this who might be struggling with training or who just might be struggling in general, those days are so important. And it's so important to put yourself in a position that you get what you need when you need it. And yes, training partners are important, but you don't want to become reliant to the point that like if they're not there, you don't get the workout in. And that's some of the things with training that you end up seeing, which is like, they pay people and if they don't show up or if something happens, they don't get the workout done, right? And I think that there needs to be obviously a personal level of accountability. And this is another thing that I want you guys to understand. We're talking about these things for very beginner people, right? Like very people who are struggling getting in the gym or have struggled quitting and have like had this problem again and again. These are things that can help us get through that first period because realistically, that first period is the toughest part, right? That first 3 months is going to be the hardest part of fitness, whether you get in and get what you need or you get in and then you fall off, right? And if you can set yourself up with some of these things that we're talking about here, this is what's going to help you get the most, obviously, out of your training, but just keep the habit building. And then, like I said, once you're in the gym, and you're there consistently and you're doing things on a regular basis, like you're gonna like then you can make changes, right? If you don't want to work out with somebody, you can keep it going. But the biggest thing is if you've quit in the past, if you have a history of quitting now, don't put yourself in a position where you're just going to do the same things you've tried to do in the past, right? Change it up until you get to that position where you have a schedule, you have a routine, you have the place that you go to, and keep it, right? Do everything in your power to keep it as long as possible. That way you can get everything you need and you can actually maintain this over the course of a year. Because this is what happens. Like just to recap, people jump in and they do too much too soon. They either pick a place that's not accessible or doesn't fit their schedule, and they don't have anybody there that's actually guiding them or keeping them accountable. And then, 3 months in and they forget where they're at, and then they just stop and they're like, oh, I'll start again next year. And then they go through this whole conversation that we're having already. So yeah, I think that's just a quick summary of it all. You
I
know,
have one more point that can
yeah,
go with
go.
the first part. So the other point that kind of ties in with um making sure that, oh God, what was the first one? Jeez.
The first point,
Yeah, the very first point.
was the to like make it accessible.
No, oh no, 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 that's what it was. So sorry. Little jet lag here. the point of not going 7 days a week at 100% and like finding how many days you should go, what ties in with that is setting realistic expectations for yourself in the
Mhm.
gym, but also the outcome from the gym. So a lot of people will quit after the first 2 weeks because they're like, I don't see anything. All this
Yeah,
is for nothing.
yeah, yeah.
So, and we've talked about this many times in other podcasts for success in the gym. Set realistic expectations. Know that it's going to take time. It may take 3 months for you to see something. It may take 6 months for you to see the big change. And that's okay. That's the beauty of it, is it's the consistency that matters. Setting those realistic expectations will allow you to continue pushing forward, knowing that every day you're making that small change that's going to push you closer to your goal. So,
Yeah, and I think it's important because even like when I was losing weight and I first started losing weight,
mhm.
it took me 2 months to see any type of like real change in my body. And I remember the
Yeah.
first couple, like the first month, I told myself, I was like, I'm not gonna weigh myself until the end of the first month, and I'm just gonna like stick it out, go from there, right? And I didn't. And when the end of that first month came, I weighed myself and I was like, I think I was down 1 pound, right? And that was when I was like, "Fuck, did I really just do all that and like just lose 1 pound?" But then that was where the pictures came in. And if you remember the podcast we did a few weeks ago on how to track progress, go back and watch that or listen to that because that's a huge thing. It's like, how are you tracking the progress, right? Are you just weighing yourself? Are you taking pictures as well? Because if I look back at the pictures, I saw clear change in my body from head to toe, but the scale said I only had lost a pound, right?
Hmm.
That's a piece that's we want to avoid. That's the thing that's like, okay, well, we fall into it, it's bad. So I think that that's a clear thing is just make sure you're tracking your progress right. Make sure you're doing all the things that we talked about today. And I think you're going to find success and you're going to have a very hard time quitting if you do it the way that we talked about today.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I think we got 5 minutes left. I don't think there's anything I need to add to it. I think you added everything to that as well.
Hmm.
So transitioning just a little bit this year, a lot of change for both of us. A lot of things that happened from beginning to end. I think that Jerry and I have evolved a ton. I think that from the beginning of this year, all the things that we talked about, there was obviously maybe we didn't accomplish all of them, but we got pretty far. We made a lot of progress personally. We made a lot of progress together as like a team. Jerry moved states, right? He moved states, got a new job. I was just continuing to travel, just doing what I've been doing the last year and a half. Went to two new countries. Oh, technically three new places. Three new places, two new countries. And, was had a really successful year of training. I want to ask you, what was probably the single biggest takeaway from this year that you think your defined your year?
Oh man. I did a lot of thinking. I had vacation recently. I just got back yesterday at midnight. Snore. The biggest thing for me is finding that I am my own worst enemy in a lot of ways. And Brandon and I have talked about this a lot. I have a lot of self-doubts and stuff, and when I do put my mind toward things, I complete them, but a lot of the times it's what's happening in here that sets me back. So the
I think
biggest change,
same with most people, but yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and that's why I'm saying it is because I know that so many people are in the same boat, but they just don't talk about it. So for me, I know that like I I limit myself based on what I think of myself and not what I'm actually capable of. So I mean, this year I moved to another state again, and then I lifted everything that I had, and I left my friends and in a different state, and I'm trying to settle somewhere new. And it's funny because with all the self doubts I might have on those things, I did it anyway, and
Yeah.
I'm thriving. I'm doing great, and I think that it's important to be able to look at what is actually happening around you versus what's going on in your head, what you're capable of, not what you limit yourself to do based on your own beliefs and thoughts on yourself. Um, and it's allowed me to grow stronger mentally, which is only going to transition into a stronger 2025 physically. I feel like I've found myself a lot this year when it comes to like getting past those barriers.
Mhm.
What about
Good.
you?
Yeah, I think that's good. I've seen the growth, obviously, going through all this stuff with you. I
Hmm.
think for me, the biggest thing is constantly grow, like just finding those ways to grow, and somewhat of the same way. I don't like I think for me, no matter what, you're always going to have like limiting factors or limiting doubts for yourself, and you're always going to find ways to be like, I don't know if I can do that. Like, I don't know if I can do it. And I think for me, I've like a lot of that stuff. I've had those battles, but I've continued to push on, and I've found success in a lot of ways. And I think the biggest thing for me now, like I've learned this year, is that I need to talk more or tell more of the story and have more of these. And that's why I wanted to dive into the podcast with Jerry, as I think Jerry is probably like the perfect co-host for me, right? And
You're
someone
too
to have
kind.
on the show to drive conversation, to have good like back and forth. And I think, for me, it's the other thing is like storytelling. I think like a big thing for me this year and coming into 2025 is telling more of my story, of the travels, of the things that I'm doing, and really diving into that a little bit more, and being able to take people along on the journey that I'm doing, because I have a very unique job. I have a very unique life that I'm living at the moment. And there's a lot of things that I'm doing that aren't normal. There's a lot of experiences that I'm having that aren't normal. And I need to better, one, be more in the moment with those things. Cause I think sometimes it's like so fast paced moving that I get very much I remember it's crazy because I remember sitting in the train station in July of this past year, getting ready to go to England. And I was just in there like Monday night being like, fuck, like 6 months just went by like that. And
Hmm.
in the moment, it's like these 6 months, take forever. But in that moment, you walk into like the train station again, and you're just like, fuck, like those 6 months just flew by. And
Hmm.
it was just like what just happened, you know? And I think for me, I have a very bad habit of just looking forward to the next thing and to the next thing and to the next thing until, those 6 months pass by. And then it's like, all right, well, you just went through 6 months, and what did you take from those? Right. And I've done a lot of like self reflecting. And one of the things I need to do now as I finish this timer is, I don't know if this goes off or anything.
It made a noise? Bro, that was like Star Warsy. That was awesome. I
Oh
feel
yeah.
so accomplished. Why weren't we using that one before?
I've never
What the
seen it.
hell,
It
man?
just added on here. It was just
Wow.
Zoom.
Maybe that's why they were having trouble with the other one, and that's why they added this one.
Okay, maybe.
Well
Uh,
done, Zoom. Let's
nice.
go.
Nice. But yeah, so I think that one of the biggest things for me is reflection from this year, taking those times during the week to write what I'm thinking, what I believe, what I'm hearing. And today I heard it in my, I read it in my daily journal, and it was the idea of like creating your own wisdom, right? Like we all read so much. We read old books and movies and all this stuff, and we take that wisdom to utilize ourselves and follow. But how often do we actually like sit down and write our own wisdom and the things that we're accomplishing and the things that we're experiencing? And I put this in my channel today, like the BG Perform Daily Discipline channel. So if you're following that, obviously you saw that this morning of the podcast. But yeah, just following through on the things that you say, creating your own wisdom, reflecting, and having these habits. And for myself, it's really just this next year is diving even more into that. And I think one of the things also that I want to add as I'm thinking out loud is like, I think me and Jerry have talked about this as well. There's a feeling of like nostalgia sometimes when you see things of like the past or when we were younger. And I think
Hmm.
because things move so fast, we forget that like there were times when we were like more free. And I think that this another song that came out by John Bellion recently was called Kid Again. And one of the like basically the whole premise of the song was like he's free from this contract he was in with his music, and he feels like a kid again, and he can do anything, and there is no
Hmm.
limit on what he can do. And like that's where I want to get to. I think 2025 is about me being a kid again, and having that thought of like I can do anything and there's not anything stopping me, right? There's that idea of like if I want to be a fucking astronaut, I'm going to be an astronaut. If I want to be in the
Yeah.
NBA, I'm going to be in the NBA. And I think like if I can chase that idea of like being a kid again professionally, then things are going to start to like expand so much more than I ever thought. And I think that it's going to explode. And I think that's just where my head needs to be. So I guess that's what I took away from 2024 and getting
I want to
into.
add one thing to that nostalgia. I feel like a big part of it is it goes back to another point that Brandon made was being in the moment with a lot of things. There's
Yeah.
so many distractions, especially with our phones. We're busy at all times. When I just went on this vacation, we were celebrating two of our friends in Colorado that just got married, and they had like a joint bachelorette party where everyone was just together, chilling, eating good food. Um, the best part about it was just I knew four other people on this trip of 16 total.
Yeah.
I met people for the first time, and it was one of those things that I felt like I knew them for a lifetime because we shared so many stories. And it's people don't share anymore, and they don't live in the moment. None of us had our phones on us except when we were taking pictures or playing music.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important. The nostalgia piece is not only being in the moment, but be with the people around you, because that's what makes those moments so special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like, I think a lot of things we talked about today, even like with keeping like continuing on in this process of the gym, we can take into a lot of other aspects as well. And I think for, 2024, there is always learning things. And I think I took a lot from this year because of things that I wasn't able to accomplish. I think I set some like lofty goals this year and things that I wanted to do that I wasn't able to accomplish. And I think part of it was because I was so focused on the idea of I stepped away from that, from being in the moment and not reflecting and not doing that thing. And I remember like I said, when I first heard the line like I am a kid again, I can do anything. I was like, fuck, man. And then like the me and Jerry have been talking a lot recently about just like the nostalgia of like the 90s and how like awesome of a time it was and when we were younger and
The
whatnot.
early 2000s tacky Christmases.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I
like that
loved
type
it.
of thing. And it's just like there's a certain it's not so much like the things, right? Or the obviously like it's the feeling of being in those places, but I think it's like the freedom you get of being in those places. And I think that's something I want to chase again and get after as much as possible in 2025. So I think that's it.
That's a beautiful way to end it, man. I love how like that was just like a very heartwarming end to a
Yeah.
podcast for the year.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. So I think I appreciate everybody who tuned into this point. I think that if you do listen to all these, I love you. And if you don't, by the
Still
time
love
you
you.
listen to all these, I love you.
Yeah, yeah. When you
Listen to
eventually find it, we love you then. Yeah.
it. I don't care how long it is, but I'll love you at the end of it.
Some
And
kid in like 30, 25 is gonna be like, oh,
I hope so.
I'm loved. Yeah.
Someone's
We're gonna
listening
live
to
on forever. Legacy. It's gonna be good.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's that would be sick. But
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys. I hope you have an amazing Christmas. I hope you open all the presents and eat all the cookies and you don't fall off the train. And if you do, you know who to hit up at Coach Jerry Hayes or at BG Perform _ on Instagram. And we will be there to help. And I will see you guys soon. Peace.